In the vast lands of the Americas, music has always been born from the wind. Across prairies and plains, over the high Andes, through the deep jungles of the Amazon, flutes and pipes became voices of prayer, love, and ceremony. They told stories not written in books, but carved in wood, shaped in clay, and carried on human breath. The Native American flute is one of the most distinctive wind instruments of North America. It was played by many peoples, from the Lakota, Comanche, Kiowa, and Pawnee of the plains, to the Navajo, Hopi, and Pueblo communities of the Southwestern Plateau. Wherever it sounded, it carried not only music, but voice and spirit. Carved from cedar, juniper, or river cane, its form is unlike most flutes of the world. A two-chambered body divides the breath. The first chamber gathers the air. The second transforms it into tone as it passes beneath a carved block, often called the bird. This ingenious design gives the flute a smooth, resonant voice, often likened to human song. While the single-pipe flute is most familiar, traditions also included double and even triple flutes, where a melody was supported by a drone or harmony, surrounding the player in a fuller resonance. Tuned by ear, these instruments most often followed pentatonic scales, giving them a meditative, open quality, yet always flexible, with breath and finger shading bending notes like a voice. In recent decades, attention has returned to the instrument. Makers and musicians revived it, giving it new depth by adapting to Western standards, tuning to concert pitch, building flutes in multiple keys, and expanding their range. This allowed the flute to join ensembles, orchestras, and new genres without losing its ancestral character. The carved totems set atop the flute, eagle, horse, bison, remain more than decoration. They are guardians of sound, reminders that this voice, whether ancient or modern, always bridges the human spirit with the natural world. Far to the south, in the Andes, another wind tradition reached extraordinary refinement: the Panpipes, known as siku in Aymara and zampoña in Spanish. These instruments were made from rows of carefully cut cane tubes, each producing a single pitch. But a single set was never complete. To create the full scale, the instrument was divided into two halves: Ira, the leader, and Arca, the follower. This design meant that one musician alone could not carry the melody. Notes were interlocked between two players, forcing them to weave the music together, like warp and weft on a loom. The act of playing was itself a social contract. Sound could only emerge through cooperation. For Andean communities, this duality reflected the structure of the cosmos: male and female, sun and moon, upper world and underworld. Music was not just entertainment, but a model of harmony between opposing forces. Ensembles often gathered in great numbers, with dozens of panpipe players in hocketing textures, their overlapping notes creating a rushing, grieving wall of sound that seemed to echo the mountains and winds themselves. The timbre of cane, dry and airy, gave the siku a voice that was at once communal and elemental. Even today, in Aymara and Quechua villages, panpipes resound during agricultural rituals, harvest festivals, and carnival processions. In these performances, centuries of cultural continuity survive. The breath of the community, carried through instruments that embody balance, cooperation, and the spirit of the Andes. The quena is the notched flute of the Andes. Slender, simple in form, yet profound in sound. Carved from cane, bamboo, or wood, sometimes even from bone, it is distinguished by its open notch at the top. The player presses the lower lip against the edge of the notch and directs the breath downward, splitting the air into tone. This design demands precision and control, but it allows for great expressiveness, from soft, whispering sighs to piercing, lamenting cries. The quena's range usually spans about an octave and a half, with 6 finger holes in front and 1 in the back. Its tuning varies regionally, but most quenas are tuned to a diatonic scale, often in G major or related modes. Unlike the pentatonic tuning of many native North American flutes, the quena offers a wider palette, giving it flexibility for both traditional melodies and modern compositions. Archaeological evidence shows that notch flutes resembling the quena have been played in the Andes for over 2,500 years, long before the rise of the Inca Empire. They appear in pottery and burial offerings of the Masca and Mochi cultures, testifying to their role in ritual and daily life. In Quechua and Aymara traditions, the quena is often called the voice of the people. Its mournful timbre carries themes of longing, separation, and memory, reflecting the struggles of mountain life and the endurance of indigenous identity. Played during festivals, agricultural rites, and communal gatherings, the quena was both personal and collective, a flute for solitary reflection and a flute for village celebrations. In Mesoamerica, the flute was not only a musical instrument, but a sacred technology. The Maya, Aztec, and their neighbors crafted aerophones from clay, bone, reed, and sometimes precious stone. Many were molded into astonishing shapes: birds in flight, jaguars with open jaws, human figures, and deities. These were not decorations. The form itself carried symbolic meaning, linking the sound to the spirit it invoked. Some of these instruments were simple single-tone whistles, but others were multi-chambered ocarinas, capable of producing chords, trills, or shifting overtones. Their timbre could be eerie, shrill, or hauntingly resonant, qualities chosen deliberately, for these sounds were meant to open pathways to the divine. Unlike European flutes designed for melody, Mesoamerican flutes were often designed for atmosphere and ritual transformation. In Aztec cosmology, the god Ehecatl, a manifestation of Quetzalcoatl, embodied the wind. His breath was the life force that set the cosmos in motion. Flutes were central in his ceremonies, their tones imitating the elemental wind of creation itself. In Maya rituals, whistles shaped as animals echoed the voices of the forest, blurring the line between human and nature. Archaeological excavations reveal that such instruments were used in processions, offerings, and even sacrificial contexts, where sound was believed to carry prayers or guide spirits. Their music was not entertainment, but communication between humans, gods, and the unseen world. Deep in the Amazon, sacred flutes held a different power. Long bamboo instruments, sometimes taller than the player, were used in initiation rites. Many traditions restricted them to men. Women were forbidden to see or hear them. Such instruments symbolized identity, adulthood, and the connection between human life and the forest. Missionaries who entered these regions often condemned these rituals, and many traditions disappeared. Yet echoes survive, hidden in hybrid festivals, faint but resilient. When Europeans arrived in the Americas, they brought with them not only organs, violins, and brass instruments, but also new systems of power and prohibition. Indigenous flutes, drums, and rattles were condemned by missionaries as pagan, and many ceremonies were outlawed. In some regions, sacred instruments were destroyed outright. In others, they were hidden away, played only in secret. Entire sound worlds, the clay ocarinas of the Maya, the sacred flutes of the Amazon, were silenced under the weight of colonization and the forced conversion of indigenous peoples. But music is rarely erased. It adapts, survives, and transforms. In Bolivia and Peru, indigenous panpipe ensembles, once tied to agricultural cycles and cosmic dualities, began to merge with European brass bands introduced by the church and the military. The result was a new kind of festival music, the powerful sound of dozens of siku panpipes set against trumpets, trombones. In Mexico and Guatemala, Maya and Nahua communities continued to craft clay flutes and whistles, hiding them in rituals disguised as Catholic celebrations. Even in the North, the Native American flute, once pushed to the margins, survived in fragments, melodies remembered by elders, instruments preserved in family lines, waiting to be revived centuries later. This process, suppression and adaptation, created what scholars call mestizo, or syncretic traditions. The music did not remain purely indigenous, nor did it simply become European. It became something new, a layered heritage, carrying traces of ancient cosmologies alongside the imposed structures of the colonial order. So even in silence, the instruments transformed. They continued to carry memory, identity, and resistance, reshaped, but never entirely lost. In the 20th century, a new way of listening began. Scholars, makers, and musicians turned their attention back to the flutes of the Americas, not as curiosities of the past, but as voices of world heritage. Instruments once confined to museums or silenced by suppression began to sound again, carrying the memory of the cultures that shaped them. The native flute, the quena, the panpipes, each returned to their communities with renewed purpose, echoing ancestral traditions while finding space in new genres. Their voices moved from rituals and festivals into contemporary music, dialogue with orchestras, and even electronic soundscapes, enriching them without losing their roots. This revival was more than preservation. It was inclusion, a recognition that indigenous instruments belong not only to one people, but to the shared story of humanity. Their tones, once nearly lost, now remind us of the power of breath, memory, and cultural resilience, carrying forward a heritage that continues to inspire. The winds of the Americas carry more than sound. They carry memory. These instruments have known silence and suppression, yet they have also been voices of resilience and rebirth. From love songs whispered on the plains, to the great panpipe ensembles of the Andes, from the sacred temples of the Maya to the hidden rituals of the Amazon, each flute and pipe tells of a people's bond with land, spirit, and community. Today, their echoes reach beyond their homelands, joining new genres and new audiences, reminding us that heritage is not fixed in the past, but alive in the present. As long as there is breath, these instruments will continue to sing. Voices of continuity, inclusion, and the shared humanity we all inherit.